Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and we're getting all paranormal with you tonight. Matthew Hale is with us, a.k.a. Android Paranormal. We're going to talk some ghosts and everything in between. Have a good night. It's Dave 101 night, and we got the strange news as well. So hello, how are you? And let's make this night happen. We have and B in the gold medal position. Race Fan with a silver. Tim Mothman in his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Laura Lobbs, Trucker Andrew, how you guys doing? Hi there, Jack Clark. Hope you're having a good night. Robert Lamoth, Roy Boy, and Shell Ashley. Shell Ashley will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Why Native, good to see you. The Demon, Raymond L., Brown Dwarf, The Debster, and Dogface Simon. Always a pleasure. Susie B., how are you, my dear? Dear Slayer and Mama Susan, how are you? And there's Kathy Evans and our favorite Marine, Black Dragon. Thank you for your service, Black Dragon. We very much appreciate the love that you bring, man, and all veterans. All veterans always have a safe home here in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. And there's Kurt M. Nice to have you back. And starting in goal tonight, number 1 from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Gloria, what's new? Just another guy named Harry. Ozzy. How you doing? Asteroid, T-Bone. And who else do we have? Bolenia, my man. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Neil Warden, how you doing? Sweet Amy WC, what's going on? Susan Alloway and the lovely and talented Kira, nice to have you both here. D. Henderson, Michael Gutierrez is back. Michael will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Nick Adkins, Griff, and Clement 3472, welcome to SOR chat. And let's see, hello, Kevin. Deb, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Richard Elmore, thank you for joining us. Hello there, Noble Patrick. And Sweet Javier, how you doing? Doc from Wyoming, Les Paul Holland, Chillgasm, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, thank you for joining us. And there's Major Lee. And who else do we have? Nancy Thames. And No Name Brand right there. No Name Brand. Okay, let's continue on. Matt Geek, thank you for coming on in. And Mike Rivers, Pixie Lara, good to see you both. Dewey Cheatham, how nice to have you back. And let's see, as we scroll on down, we have, let's see, J-Don, what's happening, my man? Raymond, nice to see you back. Mike Arrington, thank you for joining us. Bonehead, welcome to SOR chat. Aji Nost, how you doing, my friend? And we are caught up. Let's get the radio side started. The radio side is started, which means we can officially get Bill WD40 into the chat room to lube us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. Sandra Kincaid and Mennonite Abe and the lovely and talented Cat Chaser. Good to see you all here. Okay, we have Toothbrush in the chat room, so we can brush our teeth now. That's always a nice, pleasant feeling. And let's see, who else do we have? We are caught up there. Reminder to all of you, the Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. You could also join the Space Travelers Club for as low as $5 a month. The link is below in the description of the show. Wolverine, Desert Rat, how you guys doing? We got 30 seconds. Remember, we do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag. We got nice swag that you can pick up at spacedoutradio.com. Dirty Filth, are you coming in? You coming in? Or do you have to towel off first after a hard night of work? There's Bill. How you doing, Bill? Good to see you. We got 5 seconds. You know what I need you to do? Do me the favor. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. A power show of paranormal tonight. Matthew Hale is with us to tell about his personal encounters with ghosts and UFOs. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton joins us with another creepy story. It's Dave 101 night. Robin Haynes will be here for the Crypted Report and strange news of the week. Matthew Hale is from Maryland near Gettysburg, in the general area of the famous Sykesville Monster that the legendary Lon Strickler saw in the 1980s. He has grown up in Maryland and lived there all of his life. He's a software consultant for a top tech company in the United States. But it's the secret side that he has that interests him the most. He's had multiple paranormal experiences throughout his life, as well as UFO sightings. Ever since Matthew was a young lad, he always felt deep down that he was something more than this there was something more to this mysterious universe and life than most other people even talk about. We're going to find out about his story right now. Matthew Hale, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How you doing?
Doing well, Dave. How are you?
I am very well, man. And, one of the things that I love about doing this show, it's great to have the experts. It's great to have the deep researchers. It's great to have the television stars. But in the end, to me, my favorite part about doing this show is bringing on experiencers who've had firsthand encounters with the unknown. And this is why I know tonight is going to be a great show, my man. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. You have guests on all the time that totally blow my mind, that I learn about, that I never knew about before. So I really appreciate it, your show, and having me on.
You have had experiences since childhood.
Yeah. I would say late childhood, early teenage years. Yeah.
Well, childhood nonetheless. Yeah. What was that like growing up, having to have these experiences?
Well, they weren't frequent. I didn't grow up in a haunted house or anything to that extreme, like, some people might have gone through. But through my whole life, I kind of always felt there was something there. In my younger childhood, I was always fascinated by, the paranormal, movies, all that kind of stuff. Even though they scared me as a kid, I still was drawn to them for some reason, and just always felt like there was something else out there. Despite what your parents tell you when you're growing up, that there's no monsters under the closet and anything like that. I just knew that there was something to that. And it really wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 or so when I had my first experience. And it's wild because when that experience happened, I didn't even think it was paranormal. And it wasn't until later in life, early adulthood, about 20, when I had an experience that slapped me in the face so hard, it made me realize that, that experience I had back when I was younger was real.
So what happened?
So I'll start out with what really changed my life first and then go back to that first one, because that was the one that really, really impacted my life. It was just like any other night. I was at my parents' house. I still lived with my parents at that time. This was back in like 2009, I believe. Just went, it was like 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., something like that. Normal time I would go to bed at that time. I've always been kind of a late night owl and like that. But I worked at a hotel back then. And so I normally stayed up pretty late and worked the evening shifts. And so it was just part of my normal routine. And I was about to go to bed and got up to let the dog out and went out the back door. And as soon as I opened the door and before I had even shut it, I could hear in the woods behind our house something walking in the woods. And nothing paranormal is on my mind at this point. I'm thinking, it's a deer or a fox or something. All I knew was it was something big, because it wasn't making it like a scampering kind of noise. It was a slow, steady pattern, in the dry leaves in the woods, that you hear something is out there, but it's too dark. You can't see anything. And so I thought, it's a big animal, deer maybe. We don't have, grizzlies or cougars down here like you have up there. But we do have some fox. We have deer. Not even black bear would come down that far. I've moved to an area where there is some, but even down in that area where I used to be, closer to the bay, Chesapeake Bay, there was no black bear. It was like they've been long gone. And so I just was expecting maybe a burglar burgling sheds. So I just stood there quietly. And my first concern was my dog. I was like, my dog was very territorial of the yard. She would chase off anybody that came near the fence. It was a fenced in backyard. So that was my first concern. Nothing paranormal of any sort was on my mind. And it's, I guess, this kind of times that when stuff like this happens, when you're least expecting it. And all of a sudden, those footsteps stopped, and I'm just sitting there watching, my dog standing beside me watching. We're looking out into these dark woods. And all of a sudden, this little tiny light appears about 3 feet off the ground, about 3 feet just outside the fence line. So it was about 20, 25 yards from me. Not real far, but not real close, but close enough that you could see what was going on. And this little tiny light appeared. It was like the size of a marble, a little white light. And then all of a sudden it started growing bigger and bigger and bigger until it got about the size of a basketball. It was just huge. It was just, and even still at this point, I'm thinking, oh, it's somebody with one of these fancy LED lanterns out there. I'm still not registering to me, that something strange is happening here. And because I'd never had anything so in your face like this. And the first thing happens exactly what I was worried about. My dog goes running after it, charging full steam ahead. She runs to the other end of the deck where the stairs are, jumps off the stairs. And as she's doing this simultaneously, this light, it flickers, or I don't know how to explain it. It like flickers or sparkles or something. And then it rapidly just shrinks down into nothing. It doesn't turn off. It doesn't like disappear. It shrinks down into nothingness until it's gone. And it's gone before she gets to the fence line. And she gets that fence line within like 2 seconds of that thing being gone. And she's up on her hind legs on the fence, looking around. And it's one of those types of fences you can see through. It's like a fence that has 3 wood posts across it, but it's got like the chicken wire, so you can still see through it. And she's up on her hind legs and she's looking around like she doesn't see what was just literally less than 2 meters away from her. And she's looking around like, where'd this thing go? And so I'm now like wondering what is going on. So I run over to the corner of my deck where we have these, motion sensor lights that have these like big flood flashlights. I wave my hand in front of the motion sensor and man, it lights up that whole area and there is nothing there. I mean, there is nothing. And, even if something was really fast, I would have heard it run away. I mean, it was dry leaves everywhere on the ground. So there's no way it could have gotten away. And I just literally stood there for, it had to have been a long time, 10, 15 minutes afterwards, just staring, waiting, thinking something's got to pop out from behind the trees. Something's got to pop out. But nothing was there. And it just totally just blew my world open. And like, we have no idea what's going on in this universe.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, and I've seen orbs like that where they have come in, they've grown, and then they just disappear right in front of your eyes. I mean, as you see this happening, I mean, you've got a couple things going on. You're dumbfounded by this orb, but at the same time, you're worried about your dog's safety.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just imagine what that was like.
Yeah, it was scary because, I thought, I'm going to have to break up a fight between this burglar and my dog. I'm thinking, I hope they don't have a gun. If they don't have a gun, we're good. Even if they got a knife, they're going to run so scared because she would bark pretty viciously to pretty scare off pretty much anybody. But yeah, it was intense. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how old were you when this happened?
So I was about 20. I think it was about 20 or 21. So I was, well into college age. And like I said before, I always thought something was there, but to see it, right in front of your face where it's not like a shadow out of the corner of your eye, it's something that smacks you in your face. It's there for like a straight, whole minute almost, it's undeniable. You just can't deny it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, had you ever seen orbs like that before?
Not before that, no. I did see something else very similar that I would probably classify similar to an orb that I think happened, if I recall correctly, with less than a year after that. I think it might have been just a few months later. But just before we go to that, this experience, I'm not even really sure what the heck this thing was, because the weird thing is that's tied into this is the following summer after that, or spring after that, so like 6 months later, there was a newspaper article in the news that the county had found that there was a Civil War lieutenant colonel who was buried, and it listed the name of my town. And I'm like, whoa, where was this at? I looked at the street address. It is the street right behind my house, less than 100 yards from my house. There was a Civil War lieutenant colonel buried there all that time. We lived there and we had no idea. And just months before, I had seen that entity or whatever it was.
Now, growing up near Gettysburg, the legends, the lore, and everything that goes along with that. And I can honestly say it's on my bucket list to go, not to investigate, because I don't want to be that paranormal investigator who slams areas like that and then goes there myself. But just to feel the mystique and the history of everything, I think would be really, really cool.
Yeah. It is a cool place. I've actually never went there as a child. We lived only in a, hour and a half from it. And we never went there. I don't know why. It's just, I guess, wasn't my parents' thing, but I've been there 3-4 times since I've moved closer to it now. It's less than an hour away now. And it's a really fascinating place that has an energy about it. It's great going into all the shops and you go into those old buildings and they just have that old smell and that feeling, and you can just feel the history there, even if you don't have an experience. It's really amazing.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you about. That is going there and feeling that experience and having that enlightenment, knowing that it's haunted, knowing that there's spirits there, because I'm pretty sure that entire area, even living an hour and a half away, was something that would really spark a lot of spirit activity.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize, especially people outside United States, or really even people outside the state or of this area, don't realize is it's not just Gettysburg. There was, many other Civil War battles, in the area that were very bloody as well in this area. And, our state, Maryland, is called the Old Line State because we were literally the battleground between North and South. And so there was battles everywhere around here.
Yeah. Did you often, even to today, do you still get spirits from that time coming by?
Sometimes I wonder because, I live in a totally different house now. And even though this is not an old house or anything like that, I've lived in this house since 2016. And it's never had any experience in this house until a little over a year ago. Something really wild started happening here, and there were several things that happened, and within like a 2-3 month period. But then the weirdest thing is, ever since then, it just stopped. And so I wonder if something was passing through during that time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
I'd be wondering about that too.
yeah.
In regards to everything. So for you, when did you decide that you wanted to do something about it? You wanted to get into the paranormal and learn more about all of this?
That's a great question. I've watched, paranormal shows pretty much since they've been on cable TV, when the original Ghost Hunters came out, back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, I watched those shows. I didn't watch them religiously, but I watched them anytime I saw it was on. I watched it. And ever since that show came out, I've pretty much regularly watched all types of paranormal shows. And then it was more of a casual kind of interest up until about 2020. And I guess it was the pandemic, everybody's sitting around their house. They got nothing to do. Everything's closed down, locked down. I wasn't able to go into the office anymore. I was working from home and, just had more free time on my hands. And I decided, I'm going to start looking into this more. And so I started, that's when I really started listening to podcasts regularly and started to buying a few books and researching it and listening to other people's experiences and really getting into it. And it's really become almost an addiction. Like I always want more knowledge of it. It's just always on the cusp of more knowledge.
Tell our listeners out there what it's like to learn how to become a ghost hunter or a seeker of knowledge regarding anything of the phenomena.
Man, it keeps you on the edge, I've not been on any professional ghost hunting investigations, but when you're always researching and learning more and going to new places and exploring new places, it's always like there's a mystery out there that you're out there trying to find. And I don't think we'll ever get all the answers, and that's part of the fun in itself is part of the search, the process of getting answers and learning more.
And that's a big one for me is, we're all on this mission, and all of our missions are different. And those different missions are wherever the phenomena seems to take us and wherever the phenomena seems to enlighten us or trick us or something along those lines. I remember talking on Facebook today that something about that Grant Cameron, the famed UFO researcher, had posted about the phenomena. And there was a couple people there, talking about the UFO phenomena. No, it's, one of the big things for me to learn was that it wasn't just about the UFO phenomena. The phenomena is everything. The phenomena is what pushes us, which teaches us, which scares us, which tricks us. It's a little bit of everything. It's extremely godly. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's hard to even know what to categorize what. I mean, it seems like everything just blurs together. When you start watching these paranormal shows and hearing other people's experiences, you start to think, oh, well, there's different categories. But it really just seems to all blur together sometimes, especially when you've had different experiences, seen a UFO or two. And when you've seen, an orb or shadow figure, it just really starts, where does the line end and begin,
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And for you, as you are still technically kind of new over all of this, when you go and talk to people about this, or when you study, or for people out there who are thinking about getting involved, maybe they want to try out ghost hunting, and there's nothing wrong with that. What advice do you have for people as a relative newbie in learning this? Because I like the way that you have really delved into the history of everything. You're not just relying on television. Television may have brought the interest, but you're trying to learn what's
Yeah.
going on as well.
Yeah. I'm really trying to just keep an open mind. I think that's important when doing this, is keeping an open mind, to listen to everybody. Don't discount anyone's experience. Years ago, I mean, before I really had any serious experience, before that experience with that orb, I would have, written off all kinds of people's stories and said, maybe they were mistaken, maybe, but you really shouldn't, because I mean, once you see this stuff for yourself, it's wild. And so if you keep that in mind, to just imagine and pretend everybody's story is real, because if it is, that just tells you how careful you need to be. Even if you're not going on a ghost hunt, if you're just going on a haunted tour, or if you're just going to a haunted place to explore, it's not even a tour. Like, for example, Gettysburg, you can go and shop at those places, and it's not even a tour. You're just going into these old buildings. We went there once before, and we just went shopping, and we came back to the house, and it was that evening after we came back, and we were back at home, and we're getting ready for bed, me and my girlfriend, and we're in bed, and we're about watching some TV, and all of a sudden our cat gets up at the end of the bed, and she just starts looking around in the corner of the ceiling, and there's nothing up there. There's no fly, there's no picture up there, there's nothing, there's no shadow, anything. And just sitting there, like, looking around like something's moving in that corner, like, just intently focused. And what are the chances that she would do that, the same night I came back from Gettysburg, when I've only been there a few times before, when I've never seen her do that before, except for like one time since then? It just seems so strange. And it makes you realize that you could catch what you call a hitchhiker, when you're not even trying to investigate, or, you're just exploring.
Well, very true. And
Yeah.
what do you, with 90 seconds to go here before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, what do you like to explore?
Oh man, just about anything. A lot of, I guess, people new to the field, they like to explore graveyards. To me, that doesn't really, interest me. The concept I think about those is, why would somebody who passed away want to hang out at their grave site, unless maybe their loved ones are visiting or something. I can't imagine why, they would want to hang out there, unless it's a darker entity or something. And you really don't want to mess with something like that. But pretty much anything that's got a lot of history, honestly, or any place that's got a lot of reports, I love investigating anything of that type or category.
Right on. And the main thing is, for a lot of people, is even though it's a serious thing to do, you do have to be able to find the fun in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, I mean, you got to carry some positive energy with you too. Because if you're afraid also, while you're doing this kind of thing, you're just going to attract something negative towards you and increase that chances that something could follow you home.
Yeah. And that's a big one. And once again, the message to people is this: go out and ghost hunt. Go out and have some fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't think you're going to be the next television star or radio
Right.
star or whatever. But, like, I'm not a ghost hunter. When I go out looking for ghosts at the museum or elsewhere, I do it for the fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you're allowed to do it. All right. Yeah. You're allowed to do whatever you want and go give it a try. Hey, Matt, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Matthew Hale is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking all things paranormal, supernatural, and maybe we'll dabble in a little bit of UFOs and aliens later on in the show. Spaced Out Radio continues with a little bit of paranormal leading up to Halloween in just a few weeks. We will be right back on the Mighty SOR. My name is Dave Scott. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear, man.
Cool. Still coming through okay?
Oh, yes.
Right,
Sounding great. Sounding great. Just be a little bit more descriptive, okay?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That would be great. Hey, W. David Page, how you doing? Who else has joined us here late? Good there. Good there. Having fun so far?
Yeah, man, it's a good time. Good time. So it's so much to talk about. It's almost like 2 hours is not enough sometimes.
Yeah, right?
I don't know.
It's awesome. That is awesome.
What are you guys going squatching again?
Oh, I don't squatch.
No.
I never squatch. I go looking for Bigfoot. Probably. Geez, I mean, this weekend I'm out of town. Next weekend, I got a ghost. Next weekend? 14th. Yeah, next weekend I got a ghost tour. So it'll probably be 3 weeks from now. And then from there, we may only have another couple visits out there because we're getting into the season where, well, let's see.
Do you see more activity during certain seasons?
Right now we see activity.
Okay.
Right
Do you
now,
think they migrate during seasons, or?
I don't know. I can't figure out this spot. This spot has a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
I would love to take 20, 30 investigators out to this spot and just go crazy there for about 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
And it's either really dead, which is weird, or there's other things going on, whether it's orbs in the trees, whether it's UFOs. There's just a lot of stuff that I would really like to get about 20, 30 people out there one day.
Yeah.
And
that would be fascinating to have that many people all searching and kind of going different directions.
Even 10, even 10, that way, we are, how can I say this?
You would split up or separate, or?
Well, I think if we went into teams, like teams of 5, hey, Guy, how you doing? There's one of my guys right there. But I think if we like split into like teams of 5 or whatever, we could really do a lot of movement during the day.
Yeah.
And then at night kind of huddle in and let them come for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's one corner there. It's kind of shaped like a pizza.
Yeah.
Slice. That's just, it's weird. It's weird on that corner. And then there's this other area that's kind of been plowed through. And that area is weird.
That is strange.
Yeah.
And I'm jealous. I've seen a lot of stuff with some shadow figures, UFOs, everything. This Crypted is the one thing I've not seen. It's wild.
It changes you, man.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Even seeing a footprint.
Yeah.
Mr. Cowley, how you doing? Sweet Robbie G, what's happening, man?
Yeah. I need to just go take like an hour trip out west. Those woods that Lon Strickler was talking about, Michaud state forest. That's a big hot spot for him, supposedly.
There's a lot of hot spots. It's just a matter of getting the evidence, right?
Right.
And
right place, right time too. Yeah.
I want to, if I'm going to do something like that, or if I would ever do something like that, I want to bring in the right people.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring in squatchers, because I automatically know that if they use the word squatch, that they're not there to find anything proper. I don't want to bring in a lot of nuts and bolts people or flesh and blood people,
Yeah.
because I think it's
Just too old fashioned.
well, if you're going to be narrow minded,
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
it's going to
Yeah.
hurt the research.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes I wonder if, I used to hunt with my grandfather, and
hold on right there, buddy. We're coming back here. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon, where we have the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Matthew Hale, experiencer, researcher of the paranormal and supernatural, coming out of the beautiful state of Maryland. What's happening, Matthew?
Not much, man. Just having a good time with you.
So while everybody's out on the weekend watching college football, you're out there trying to find ghosts, ghouls, goblins, and UFOs.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you, man?
I don't know. I guess I just like to be on the edge, but I spend most of my time really just researching it, more than going out there. But I just find it so fascinating that we can just, learn so much about this world, and delve into topics that, your everyday person is not going to delve into. And it's really a shame, because there's really so much to learn. And, I've never really been a huge person into sports, but it's just that next thing that you're going to find, and it's just, so fascinating to see, what you never know what to expect, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like, some people are into true crime, some people are into all types of stuff, but I guess it's kind of like true crime in a sense, where you're always looking for the next thing to learn, to figure out, to solve or discover,
No, I can understand that. There is something about the mysteries that very much push us in that direction.
Yeah.
Like for me, I love the mystery. I love the feeling. Like when we were out in the forest, my buddy Mike, who's in the chat room right now, when we were out in the forest on Saturday night, it's pitch black, can't see a thing. The moon finally comes up, and we're looking around, and we noticed that, it seems between 8:00 and 10:30 is when things happen. Then right after that, things disappear, and the action seems to stop. Why is that?
Yeah.
We pushed until midnight. We sat there for an hour and a half twiddling our thumbs. You know? I mean, what do you do in those times? And why are you doing it? But it's that fear factor, that rush that you get from just being out there in the environment, that anything can happen at any time. It's kind of like, if you go into a haunted house where there's spirits in there, and you come around that corner, and next thing you know, you see the lady of the house rocking in the rocking chair.
Yeah.
And disappears right in front of you. That's the rush. That's the feeling of awesomeness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good feeling when, you get to see or experience something. But like I said, it always happens when you're least expecting it. I've done some real estate work, and I would show houses sometimes. And so you would go over people's houses. You don't know the people. If you're doing it for another real estate agent as a favor, you might host a house open. You don't even know these people. You're just going into their house. You're going around every single room. You're turning on all the lights and everything. And there was this one house, that I went over, and last thing, of course, the last thing on my mind is the paranormal or anything strange happening. And I just go in there, and I've done this a million times before, gone into a house that I didn't know, turn on all the lights, get ready, to hold an open house. And there was just something about this house. There was some sort of feeling about it, it was strange. It just had a presence to it. And I guess, this house wasn't super old, but it was, probably about 40 or 50 years old. And it just had a presence about it. It just felt ominous, like something was watching. And I didn't really think much about it. I just thought, I'm just kind of rushing. I'm not, just being nervous, trying to get ready in time for, the people to show up. And I went down into the basement, and I swear when I was going down in that basement, I was going down the steps real fast. And, when you're going down the steps and your pants kind of swoosh together, well, all of a sudden I heard like a noise, a fabric kind of noise that was not, of my clothes moving. It was clear as day. It was a totally different sound. And it sounded like it was coming from right around the corner of the basement. And I had to go down there after hearing that noise to turn on the lights still, to get ready for people. And I was starting to wonder. I stopped on the stairs like, oh man, is somebody in here? Squatting. Sometimes you get people in these houses, especially if they're vacant, that aren't supposed to be in there. And but sure enough, I went down there. There was nobody down there, and I was just spooked out the rest of that day in there. It was wild.
Yeah, I can totally see where that would amazingly be a little bit freaky and a little bit spooky all at the same time.
Yeah.
When you are going into an area where there's ghosts and supernatural, what do you prepare yourself for? What do you do?
Well, I'm a little bit on the spiritual side and a little bit on the religious side. I do pray. I pray daily. I always, pray to keep myself safe. And I think, no matter what your belief or religion or spirituality is, I think it's very, very important to, stay grounded with being in touch with your spiritual side or your religious side, because, I think that is a big, big thing that does protect you. I mean, there's so many, cases and, experiences of just people really, being attacked or just having some sort of hostile entity or experience that really helps them just praying and having some sort of object also to focus your energy to, whether it's a crystal or a cross or whatever your religious or spiritual item is. I think it's really important to have that, because that experience I had here in my house, I think that's part of the reason why it had left, because whatever had came and however it came here, it seemed to have left, not, I think within the same day or within a week of me literally calling it out and saying a prayer out loud and telling it to leave, and that this is my house, and asserting that I'm not afraid of it.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Are you afraid of attachments? Are you afraid of bringing something home with you or being attacked spiritually?
I'm not really afraid of attachment. I wouldn't go to these places if I was afraid of it. Unfortunately, it's just a part of the game, or part of the work. Just doing this is just kind of a small risk that you have to take. But I think if you take the right precautions, I think you're fine. And, even if something like that does happen, there is, things you can do to help rid you of any attachment, prayer or, whatever spiritual ritual or belief that you believe in. There's a lot of evidence to show that all types of, spiritual rituals or prayers can help.
Yeah, that's very true. So when you go into a location, are you working with it? Do you have your own team, or do you prefer working individually?
Oh no, I don't have my own team, but I just usually explore on my own or with my partner. We go places together. Sometimes she's a little more on the afraid side, I would say, but She still goes, she's fast. She's one of those people that, she's very fascinated by it and loves it and enjoys every minute of it. But she is, scared of that attachment of bringing something home, because while she enjoys going out and doing stuff, it's, when it's in your own house, it's a total different ball game. When it's, who knows, it's watching you while you're doing your everyday stuff, showering or whatever, it's watching you, it's in your house. Who knows when it's watching?
That is very true. Yeah. Tell us a story about an encounter you've had.
So I've had so many. I'm trying to think. I guess I'll go with the most recent one, the one that happened in my house. It's really a series of incidents that had occurred. And I still have no idea to this day how they occurred. Unfortunately, I've still not gotten to the bottom of that. But, it was just one day, I was alone. My girlfriend was out of town visiting some family and taking care of some family stuff. And it was the first time I had lived in this house, for several weeks by myself, alone. We had always lived here together since then. And so no big deal, and it was only like 2 weeks after she had been gone. One day I'm just laying in bed, getting ready for bed. And, I just get this feeling something is watching me from the hallway. And I've never had that feeling before. And like something's out there, the hallway's dark, the light's not off, you can't see out there, but the door's cracked, or actually the door was wide open first. And it just felt like something was out there. And I was like, I got to close that door. So I closed it most of the way, so the cat could still get in and out. But, I just had that feeling. And then a few days after that, maybe a week or two after that, it wasn't long, I'm in the shower, just showering. I'm facing the shower head. And I was washing my face or my hair. And out of the left side of my vision, it wasn't peripheral vision, it was in my regular vision, but kind of over to the left of my vision, I saw this like shadow figure, and it wasn't like one of those shadow things you see out of your peripheral, like it's like for a split second. I mean, it was very plain and obvious that something was just outside the glass door. It was a shower glass door that's kind of foggy or got a film over it, so you can't see outside beyond, except for the colors and shapes of things, but you can't make out detail. But it was just as clear as day, this pillar of shadow, maybe about a foot wide, but I couldn't tell how tall it was because it moved so fast, and I couldn't tell if it had a rounded head or a squared off top or what, but it was just like a pillar of a shadow figure, just moved so quick around the corner. And, even when that happened, even though I knew, the paranormal was real, I still had that doubt in me, that it was real, because you still doubt yourself, even when it's real. And I still was like, it's probably nothing, probably just my eyes playing tricks on me. And despite having that feeling, a week or so ago before that. And then it was about a week or two again after that. Actually, I think it was less than that. I think it was like 2 or 3 days after that. I was in the shower again. And this time I was like on one foot, washing my other foot. And I'm like facing, so I'm like bent over, facing the shower wall with the glass door to my back. And it was wild. I still can't even believe to this day this happened. It's like as if somebody, some extremely, extremely huge person came up behind me and cast a shadow over top of me. And there was a huge shadow over the wall in front of me. And I couldn't see where it began or where it ended. And immediately I was like confused. Like I'm thinking, what in the world? And right as I'm about to turn around, it literally goes away. And it doesn't just like turn out or go away. It like I could see the edge of it move away extremely fast. And I turn around and there's nothing there. And that told me, oh no, something is here, something's in the house. It was undeniable at that point. And I was just like, this is this is the last thing I wanted, to for something to come into the house, And so I'm like, oh man, I was like, what am I going to do? So, I didn't really think about it. And I was a little stressed about it at first, but then I was like, well, I'll just see what happens, Then a few nights later, again, I'm coming down the stairs to get a snack or a drink before bed or something, and I was listening to something on my cell phone, and it was playing over the speaker, not earbuds, and I heard a noise, what sounded exactly like a growl, and I'm like, I paused my phone immediately, and I'm like, did I really just hear that? It had stopped before my phone was paused, and I was like, oh, it's probably, just, somebody with a motorcycle or something riding by in the distance. I live in kind of a suburban area, outskirts of the suburban area, but still a suburban area. So there's motorcycles and cars with loud exhausts that go by. And so there again, I was doubting myself again, and I go around the corner and, always trying to find, a reasonable explanation and leave the paranormal as the last resort, and so I still was like, it's probably just a motorcycle. And I go to fill up my water at the refrigerator, and I'm sitting there with the refrigerator water dispenser, and I'm filling my water. And I just noticed all of a sudden to my right, there's a little ball of a shadow on the floor. And it's like, it's weird. It's just a ball, but it's a shadow casting on the ground. And then I realized, if a shadow is to my right, it must mean there's something to my left casting that shadow. But it took me a while to register that, at least 3-4 seconds. And I'm looking at this shadow, and it's just floating there. And it was weird. It was fuzzy around the edges. The shadow was fuzzy around the edges, and it had like a little stem at the bottom, like a balloon or something. It was the weirdest looking thing. And then all of a sudden, the shadow went away, and I turn around and look, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like, at first I heard this growl, which I thought was a motorcycle. And now this, I saw the two shadows in the bathroom the other day. I'm like, this is escalating. This is getting, it's like creeping up on me, just following me around, basically trying to intimidate me, whatever this thing is. And so I just spoke out loud. I just said, I know you're there. I saw you. I can hear you, and you don't scare me, because I believe in God, and I know you can't hurt me. And literally, I swear, 2-3 seconds after I said that, I heard this noise, which I've never heard attributed to the paranormal before. And I didn't even think it was paranormal until I had to explain this experience to somebody else, and they had asked about it without me even telling them. But I heard this noise. It was like a plastic noise, like somebody crumpling like popping bubbles on plastic, or crinkling some sort of plastic cellophane or something. And it was just like 1 or 2 second sound, and then it was quiet. And I was like, what was that? And I just went about my regular night the rest of the night. And really, ever since then, I have not visually seen a single thing in this house since that day, since I basically told it, this is my house. I'm not afraid of you. You can't be in this house because it's my house, and I know you can't harm me. So you might as well just leave. So it definitely helps to assert, that you're not afraid of it, and show it that, you'll do whatever you need to do to get it to go away, basically.
Right. So when you have action like that, how do you deal with it? Because a lot of people, they'll try and run away. They'll maybe move houses, not go back for a while. How do you try and deal with it?
That's a great question, man. You're right. I guess your typical person really is, get really scared. If something like that happens to them. My girlfriend's definitely one of those people. She's not even hardly had an experience, but she's terrified of something like that happening to her. And when she came back, I told her about those things that happened, and she thought, oh, you're just exaggerating. There's nothing in our house. And like I said, I haven't seen anything visually since then. But the funny thing is that when she came back, I think it did this to like show her, oh yes, I was here, or I am here. We were laying in bed one night, or I was crawling into bed, and she had been asleep, but because I was crawling into bed, I kind of woke her up a little bit, disturbed her sleep. And as I got in bed, I literally heard 3 scratches on what sounded like a wall or cardboard or something. And we had a cardboard box in our room, and it was as clear as day. It was just like real slow like that. And you're like, what kind of normal physics thing could make a noise like that, you know? I've had a mouse in my house before. I know what they sound like. They sound like a little scampering or gnawing in the wall. It doesn't sound like giant claws on a wall or something scratching a wall. And at first I thought, oh, it's the cat, pawing at the wall or the box or something, trying to get food or attention or something. And then I realized, oh, she's laying in bed right beside me. And I went, oh no. And that's when I nudged her beside me and was like, did you hear that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that was not the cat. And then she lifted her head immediately and looked around, looked over beside me. And sure enough, the cat was laying right beside me. And she was just like, go to sleep. I don't want to know about it. She just, kind of person, plug their ears, close their eyes. They don't want to know about it. So you're right. There's a lot of people who they just want to tune it out. They're scared of it. They'll run away or they'll ignore it. They'll deny it. And I don't know, I guess the best way that I deal with it is because I'm so curious by it and fascinated by it, that it scares me, less, than a typical person. I investigate it, I stand my ground or try to engage with it, because it's fascinating you're sitting there engaging with something that science says doesn't even exist.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, I mean, skeptics aside on what exists and what doesn't, I mean, when somebody has an experience like your girlfriend or yourself, where you're in one of these places and you're trying to maybe bait them out in a polite way, or you're trying to really make life happen for an experience, how often does it happen? Because I mean, people who watch TV think that you walk into a haunted location, there's something happening like every 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's definitely not the case. I mean, even though I've had several experiences, I mean, I've gone to Gettysburg and nothing happens, and I go into like almost every shop in town, and all the little trinkets and stuff, nothing happens. I mean, it's during the day, but I mean, stuff can happen during the day too. I've had something happen during the day before. And that was the experience that happened back when I was a kid, but so it can happen anytime, but it does happen rarely, and it doesn't work on your schedule. That is absolutely for sure. Absolutely.
That's right. We got about 2 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Paranormal investigator and researcher Matthew Hale is with us. Matthew, the type of ghosts that are around and the type of ghosts that are being dealt with, do you find in your area that it's a mixture of, say, everything from maybe the Civil War times right to what's happening today? And do you think those ghosts are intermixing?
Yeah, I think it's really a mixture. This area definitely had some Indian activity to it, even before the Civil War. In fact, there's the oldest standing building in Maryland, is not far from where I live now. And it was built in the 1600s. I mean, that is really old for America. I mean, 1600s in England or Europe, that's like, oh, that's kind of old, but not really. But in America, 1600s is extremely old. And this was a house that they used to fight the Indians and kind of ward them off. So I think it's really a mixture. I think there's definitely Native American spirits in the area. There's definitely Civil War spirits in the area. And then I think there's definitely just, spirits just from your everyday, average, person who's maybe passed on and has not moved on for some reason. And we also get, a lot of UFO activity in this area as well, too. And I have seen 2 of those, and it's pretty wild. So
I know it's a wild hotspot because Science Bob lives in the same area, and he says, at any time you can look at the sky and see some really, really weird things that are there. And hey, because it's a capital, maybe it's some spooky U.S. Air Force technology that we don't know of. But the main thing is there's things in the sky that we will talk about next on Spaced Out Radio. Our guest tonight, Matthew Hale, Android Paranormal, online. You can check him on out. UFOs, ghosts, how would you deal with it? I want to know. because it's all in fun until somebody goes, boom, and then they're not there. Spaced Out Radio continues with hour number 2 coming up right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, my man.
All right.
We will be, I'm just going to hop out here. I'm going to put you in the green room.
Sure.
And I'll be right back.
Appreciate it.
Be right back, people. Don't go anywhere. All right. I am back. Derek Galloway, what's happening, my man? How you doing, buddy? Cheers to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You ever heard of a UFO called an Ebony? I believe is what they call it.
I'm sorry?
You ever heard of a UFO, what they call, I think, an Ebony?
No.
It's supposed to be like an organic kind of being or kind of thing in the sky.
Oh, an Eben.
Ebit, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, Eben.
Ebit, okay. I couldn't remember what it was called, yeah. That's one of the two things I'd seen in the sky.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I was actually leaving work and I saw it up in the sky back in like 2011, I think it was.
Well,
and
hold that thought until we come back here.
All right.
So, big thank you tonight to both Neil in the UK and Deb for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support, guys. And Lori Bell with a $2 super chat to add to that. So thank you so much, Lori. Very much appreciate it. And don't forget, if you want, you can join the Space Travelers Club for as low as $5 a month. And the link is below in the SOR description of tonight's show. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening on podcasts, you're not going to be able to do that. Laura Dominguez, how are you? Welcome to our chat room again. And who else? Did I miss anybody? Just scrolling and checking. I don't think so. And Skip to Malou. How are you, gorgeous? All right. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. Hi, Shaq Valet. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott as we're into the paranormal and UFO world tonight. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zystarch. Zystarch is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go, second hour with Android Paranormal's Matthew Hale, and he is out of the lovely state of Maryland, chasing ghosts, chasing UFOs. Now, Matthew, you had, speaking of UFOs here, we're going to change topics a little bit. You've had a couple of interesting encounters with UFOs. Tell us about the one.
So the first one I had was back in, I believe it was 2011. I was just leaving work. It was late in the evening. This was, for anybody familiar with the area, this would have been Eastern Howard County area, not far from Interstate 95, which runs all the way up from Maine, from Canada, all the way down to Miami. And this was around dusk, and the sun was setting, but it was still light outside. And I was just walking out of work. I work in a big office building, or used to at that time. And I wasn't even really looking at the sky. It's just the sky was just so big and wide open that day. There was I don't even think there was a single cloud in the sky that I can recall, really. And I just noticed there was these three little things. It wasn't one, two. It was actually three little things way, way off in the distance in the horizon. And I just stood there watching them. And I'm like, what are those things? And I actually grew up just about 2 or 3 miles, 4 miles, less than 5 miles for sure, from the Baltimore airport, which is actually not in Baltimore. But I just grew up. So I'm very familiar with what a plane looks like, what a helicopter looks like, And so there was absolutely no mistaking that this was not a plane or a helicopter. So, the next thing you go to is, okay, well, maybe it's, a comet or just a weird star or planet or something. But there was 3 of these things. So that kind of rules out planets and stars. And what it looked like is 3 white little gashes in the sky. Like if somebody took a knife and like cut into the fabric of space and time, and cut a hole open. There's actually a documentary which I think could be related to what I saw called A Tear in the Sky. And I recommend everybody check out the documentary. It's a good documentary. And it's like these 3 things, and they were all really close together. And 2 of them were really, really close together. And then there was one kind of off to the side a little further away. And the 2 that were really close together, these like 2 little white kind of gashes in the sky, kind of the shape of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Not a cylinder, but a cylinder that comes to the point at the ends. And they were up and down, though, not side to side. And they were coming down really slowly. You could tell and I could only tell they were moving because I was standing there looking at them for several minutes. And this wasn't like, a few seconds sighting. I mean, I was standing there for several minutes just watching these things. And they were just coming down very, very slowly. And I'm watching, and then eventually the 2 that were closest together like merged together. And then that's when it occurred to me, oh man, I have a smartphone. It was actually the first smartphone I ever had in my life. Just what are the chances of that? This is back in 2011. Not everybody had a smartphone back then, and the smartphone cameras back then weren't great still, even at that time, compared to today. We still have a long way to go. But anyways, so I take my phone out and I take a picture. I'm killing myself for not thinking to take a video, but a smartphone, I still wasn't thinking about all the functionality a smartphone could do back then. And so I just took a picture, and unfortunately with the way it was, since it's not a telescope camera, it looks like 2 little tiny dots, basically in the sky because they were so far away. But anyways, I've blown it up and you can kind of see it in the gash. But I just watched these things come together. And I mean, they were up there for so long that it even ruled out being like a comet or space debris, because I have seen shooting stars before and they are very, very fast. I mean, they move, 50,000 miles an hour, literally, sometimes more. So they're not some slow moving thing across the sky. And still this day, I have no clue what that was. And this was in a populated area, where other people probably saw this thing.
My goodness. And that area, we hear a lot about it on this show because Science Bob, Mr. Bob, or Dr. Bob McGuire, who does Science Bob and Friends, he lives in that area.
Yeah.
And he knows that they are capturing some very interesting and intriguing things that are in the sky. The thing that I don't get about all these UFOs, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia, they're all right there.
Yeah.
And it's highly patrolled.
Yeah.
It's highly radared. It's one of the most radar aggressive areas in the world.
Absolutely.
And yet these weird UFOs, from black triangles to orbs and weird things like you saw, happen to be all over the place. And I just don't get it.
Yeah. It's very strange. And here's what's even more strange is the direction that I saw this in was southeast from where I was standing, and in that direction is Andrews Air Force Base.
Really?
Yeah. And so I don't know if it was all the way down near Andrews Air Force Base, but it was in that direction, absolutely. And I was only, as the crow flies, maybe 15, 20 miles from Andrews Air Force Base, but this was way off in the distance. I mean, this thing I was looking at, it was probably at least a few miles away. It was really far away, but it was just so spectacular up in the sky. It was kind of hard to miss if you just even glanced in the sky,
Yeah, no kidding. So do you think that what you saw, or even what other people are seeing in that area, do you think that might be secret technology, maybe that's parked at Andrews Air Force Base, or maybe at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, that they are using to protect the area of Washington, D.C. and all of its holdings and surroundings?
Well, it's definitely a fascinating concept. I think that it may be even more complex than that. I think if it is connected to the government in any way, my theory would be that it might be an unintended side effect of whatever they're doing. So it might not actually be maybe their technology, that's something they're trying to do, like some sort of secret craft or something. But I think it's important for people who are not familiar with the area to keep in mind that it's not just an Air Force base here. It's not just for the Capitol here. There's also NSA headquarters near here as well, which I have some relatives who worked there as well, and some relatives that worked at FBI headquarters as well in DC. But there was also the NASA Goddard Space Center here in Maryland as well. So you got all kinds of alphabet agencies, that have headquarters, big office buildings here, And so, and we also have what's called Fort Meade, which is a very, very famous place where they had done a lot of the, I think, remote viewing tests back in the day. And so they do all kinds of stuff in this area. Who knows what they're up to. And so I'm wondering if maybe, they're doing some sort of experiment that's kind of maybe ripping open a portal up in the sky unintendedly, who knows, something that they're not even realizing that they're doing, or just they realize they're doing it and just, going along with their business.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, and why not? If the signals from the radar are very high, in that area, that might attract UFOs to that area.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point too. It's funny you mentioned that because it seems like there's that theory from the Roswell about the UFOs being attracted to the area with the nuclear explosions and the radar in the area somehow interacting with them or making them not function properly, and all those theories as well. And so there could be a connection to all that, and there's probably nuclear, stuff around here that we don't even know about, and it's not far from Norfolk, Virginia either, which is right off the coast where Ryan Graves had seen the cubes and the spheres, and they still see to this day, they say. He says he has people that are still flying out there and seeing them on a regular basis, even today.
You had a second UFO encounter.
Yeah, I did. That one happened here up near my house just about a year or so ago. And I've been planning to turn that one into MUFON because I got it on video, and it's really strange because it might just be as much strange as the first one, if not more, because I was just out for a walk in my neighborhood around a block here, and it was a pretty sunny day, clear skies, and I'm not close to any airports, but planes do fly over this area as a regular route that they fly. And so when they fly over this area, they're usually pretty low to the ground, low enough that you can tell it's a plane, but not real low. And I'm just out there walking, and I just happened to look up to my left, and I saw this weird shape that I've never seen before. I've still never to this day heard anyone report a UFO of this shape. So if anyone has ever heard of this or knows of an incident of this, please put it in the chat, because I would love to know. But anyways, this thing, it was shaped like not a cross, but it was like a cross, but with the one half cut off. So it was just like, just this cylinder shape with another cylinder attached to the side of it. And it was the weirdest friggin' shaped thing I ever seen. And it was coming down. And the weirdest part about it is that it was descending to the ground, and it seemed pretty low to the ground, but I couldn't make out the detail of it. I'm like, oh, my eyesight's not quite 20/20, but it's pretty good. And so I took out my phone. I had just not long before that, a couple months before that, bought one of these phones that has these new fancy telescope cameras. And, a lot of people don't realize, they ask, why has nobody gotten a good picture of a UFO? Everybody's got these, smartphones nowadays. Why is there no good pictures, But they don't really understand, I think, how the technology works. So if you just have a regular cell phone camera and you zoom in, right, it's going to be a digital crop, which means it's literally just stretching out the same resolution, which makes it more and more blurry and fuzzy. Well, I had one of these new phones, that has a telescope camera on it, and not just any telescope camera, but a 10 times telescope camera. So in other words, for those who might not know, you can zoom in 10 times without any, degradation of the quality of the picture at all. It's like you're 10 times closer when you're really not. And so I took my phone out immediately. I knew to react fast. A lot of times, you don't think in the moment, with that kind of stuff. And I whipped it out and turned the video on, and I recorded this thing. First, I took a picture, and then I was like, what am I doing? I got to take a video quick. And I took a video just of the last few seconds right before it descended behind a tree line of some trees. And then immediately after that, I'm like, man, that's so wild. I'm like, I got to try and document this, as best as I can. While I'm in the moment, and so I look up, oh, there's a plane. And so I took a video of that with the same camera lens. And you can see in the video of the same camera lens that I use, the same exact 10 times telephone camera, in the same exact moment, you could see the wings. You could see the engines on the wings. I mean, you could see that kind of detail. And this thing was way further up than this, whatever this other thing was. But then when I look back at the video of this thing that was much closer, it looks so fuzzy and so blurry, as if, there's some sort of like haze around it or something. And it is the strangest thing. I would almost think it was somebody just flying a drone, but some weird shaped drone, but it just couldn't be, because it had this like force field of haze around it that kept you from being able to make out any sort of detail beyond the general shape of what it was.
My goodness. I mean, did it shine any lights down on you? Did it attract, did it know? Because a lot of these UFOs, they tend to know when you're looking at them. It's like they're specifically there for you. Did you get that feeling?
I'm not sure if I felt that way with this one, but the first one, I definitely felt like it was putting on a show. I mean, it was up there for many, many, many minutes, just like it was like putting on a show for everybody to watch and for anybody who cared to pay attention. But this one, it seemed like I almost, I don't know, like caught it by surprise, or because it was moving pretty quick. But it's weird because it was, like I said, it was descending to the ground, but it wasn't descending at like a rate that, an object falling out of the sky would descend, not that fast. It was just descending at a kind of a slow pace, but, it was quick enough that it was gone from sight behind the tree line within, 10, 15 seconds or so. It wasn't very long at all. And it really makes you wonder, why was it doing that? Did it go into the woods, and what was it doing back there? This is in the middle of broad daylight, and there's people, driving around, this is a suburban area.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How close was it to you?
This one, man, it was close. It had to have been less than not by height, but by distance. It had to have been less than a football field away. It was pretty close, or maybe a football field and a half. So I'd say about 100 or about 75 to 150 yards away. And it was, when I first saw it, maybe 500 feet up in the air at the most. And then by the time, it had descended behind the tree line, I mean, it was probably, not more than 100 feet, above the ground. The trees are about 80 to 100 feet or so. So it was pretty close,
Sound?
No sound. Didn't make a single sound. Yeah.
That's what trips me out about a lot of this, is the fact that so many of these close encounters have no sound.
Yeah. And I mean, that defies the laws of physics. I mean, we don't have anything in human technology that can be up in the air and not make a single sound unless it's a balloon. I mean, and this was not a balloon. I mean, this had the weirdest shape of anything I've ever seen. I mean, I can't imagine, unless it was basically a sideways T, balloon, this was no balloon, right? And if it was a sideways T balloon, then why the heck did it have a fuzzy haze around it, even with a 10 times telephotic, lens camera? It just didn't make any sense.
I apologize if I missed this, but how big was it?
Ooh, that's hard to judge from kind of far away, but I mean, this thing, considering it was pretty close, it had to have been pretty big. I would say it was certainly at least a couple meters long or wide, and then but it could have been 4 or 5 meters. It wasn't like big, but like huge craft that you hear some people report. But it was certainly big enough that a regular sized person probably could have fit inside.
Now, I remember when I saw my first couple of UFOs, one of the first things that I did was I went and Google, type out UFOs, and then try and find if anything that I had seen, if there were any photos of it on Google to see if anybody else had captured same thing. Did you try anything like that?
I have tried to search a couple things. I've looked at a diagram, I forget the source of it, that shows all the different UFO shapes that have been reported, and I just didn't see anything that quite matched like it. I probably should try searching more with, I don't think I've tried searching with quotes, because on Google you can actually search with quotes and sometimes get a little better luck. But yeah, I've looked at many different references online, and I still to this day can't find anything that looked quite like that. And it was certainly a weird shape.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. And the funny part about it is so many people have that happen where they have an idea of what they've seen. They've got the picture in their mind. And this is what actually drove me nuts right before creating Spaced Out Radio, was that the UFOs that I had seen, I couldn't find online. Like the black triangle, the first black triangle I saw. Well, you know what? Everybody sees the 3 lights in the corner. Mine, the entire undercarriage is lit up.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Why is this like this? Why does it always have to be different than what everybody else is seeing? And it drove me crazy, man.
Yeah.
It really did.
I heard somebody else discussing recently that it almost seems to toy with us. And I almost kind of agree with that. It almost like kind of messing with us, showing us all these different shaped craft. Or, on the other hand, if you try to think of it also from a nuts and bolts perspective, I mean, when you're out driving on the road, right? I mean, we have convertible cars, we have 4-door sedans, we have 2-door coupes, we have SUVs, we have minivans, we have 18-wheeler tractor trailers. I mean, we have so many different vehicle shapes. So if you're an alien and you're coming to this planet, especially an alien that doesn't have any vehicles, you're going to be like, whoa, why do they have so many different vehicles, so many different shapes of moving craft, And so it could be just as simple as these entities, they just have a lot of different car models.
Yeah, and I've often wondered that too. And I think, and believe it or not, I believe that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That, I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't know if they use a monetary factor or a monetary scale where, some, like you said, some people or some UFOs are like the minivan stage. The other ones are like the Ferraris.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what they're charging. I mean, how much tax do they pay on those? It sounds funny, man, but I mean, that is the reality. And it's different with orbs, because orbs usually come in one shape.
Yeah.
And that is round. So the big question is, where does it go from there, and how do you try and find them? So, I mean, with 42 seconds left before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, I mean, do you set your sights on having or trying to have more UFO encounters?
Yeah, actually, I've been thinking about that, and I've been really highly considering going to a couple of the high peaks in the area. I'm not too far from the Appalachian Mountains, nothing compared to, of course, the Rocky Mountains, but there's some high peaks where you got some pretty good views, and I think that would be a great area to kind of just sit up there and watch, whether it's during the day or night. I think it would be a great spot to check out the sky. Even if you don't see anything, I'm sure it would be beautiful.
Absolutely. Matt, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we have Matthew Hale from Android Paranormal on for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We've talked ghosts. We've talked UFOs. Let's see what else we can talk about in the next half hour. We got a jam-packed show in the second half coming up for you, so stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio returns right after this. Rock and roll, man.
How big was that triangle you saw?
The first one, just like a probably the size of a B-2 bomber.
Wow, that's pretty big. Yeah.
The second one that I saw months later, probably the size of a city.
Holy cow, man. I've heard of that, man. That's wild.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing. I guess some people wonder if those triangles are ours, human reverse engineered, but it's hard. I don't know. What do you think on those?
I think they are a combination.
Yeah, I think Lou said that the triangles were ours. Didn't he say that somewhere? I thought.
No, he's never really said that, but I mean, he's alluded to it, and I've had other people allude to it. Probably the weirdest thing that I ever heard about it, and I was talking to somebody about it one day who would be kind of in the know, and I said, hypothetically speaking, these black triangles, if they were human, where would they land? They got to land somewhere.
Yeah, right.
And this person's response to me was, hypothetically speaking, what if they don't land?
Oh, yeah. I think I have heard you mention that on the show before. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. It's wild. Or maybe they submerge.
Shell Ashley, I know this comment is late, but I'm thinking the bottom of your black triangle being fully lit. No, there's a little bit more to that story, Shell. It was prior to that, we had seen, let me draw it here, kind of like an old school round dumbbell. Okay. Just like this that I'm going to put up on camera. So just like that, an old school dumbbell rod racing across the sky from southeast to northwest. The rounded parts here were silver, and the rod was orange. The rod connecting them in between was orange. And when the triangle appeared 25 minutes later, the entire undercarriage of that triangle was silver orbs connected by orange rods from front to back. That's what makes it interesting.
I've never heard anything like that before.
No.
Yeah.
And 3 of us saw it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't even know where to begin on that one.
Yeah. It's odd, but what do you do?
Yeah. It seems like the more experiences I have, the more often they occur. It's strange. I think there could be something to this thing where you have experiences and you start to, I don't know, have a hitchhiker effect or something.
Yeah. All right, we've got about minute and a half here.
All right.
Big thank you tonight to T-Bone, Lori, Neil, and Debster for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Dick Butkus passed away. Weird. Badass Billy Gunn. That's just what the media wants you to say, that Elizondo wastes everyone's airtime. If everybody learned to read between the lines, you would know that the guy is telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So is David Grush. I'm not saying there isn't anything nefarious behind it, but what I am saying is that people just want to pick on him. Here we go, everyone.
Yeah.
We're through the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us as we're talking paranormal, UFOs, and so much more. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and so much more. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. We have him till the top of the hour. Matthew Hale from Android Paranormal is with us. We've heard about his amazing experiences, both with ghosts and with UFOs. Matthew, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Matthew, where do you stand as being a little bit of a relative newcomer the last 3-4 years into this field? Prior, even like when I got into this, okay, ghosts were ghosts. Ghost people did not hang out with UFO people, who did not hang out with cryptid people, who did not hang out with the psychic people or the tarot card readers or the near-death experiencers. Everything was, just a few years ago, was so segregated. And now we have so many people investigating this like it's one big phenomena. People like Leslie Keene, people like Grant Cameron, David Weatherly, and many others believe that everything is tied together. And I'm curious to hear your response to that. What do you think?
Oh man, this is like kind of the biggest question of really probably everything, honestly, because it would really, if we knew the answer to this for a fact, we would certainly be able to answer other questions with the answer. But personally, for myself, I believe there is some differences. I believe that cryptids can be spiritual, can be interdimensional. I believe that, ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them, or entities, negative entities or demons or whatever you want to call them, I think they all come from other dimensions. Maybe they're different dimensions. Maybe one comes from a higher dimension, one comes from a lower dimension. I personally believe, I try to look at science and try to piece science theories together with it. There's some scientists, physicists, in today's world who believe that they say that the math works out that there's 11 or 12 dimensions, right? And so let's say, hypothetically, if that is accurate, right? If this theory that they have based off the math is accurate, that there is multiple dimensions, whether it's 3 or 12 or however many, right? Then that means that there could be other entities, whether they're physical or non-physical, that are coming over from these dimensions. There could be a spiritual dimension. There could be, another dimension that's kind of physical like us, where these cryptids are coming from. It could be another realm where these negative entities come from, another dimension from there. And I personally believe that the UFOs are using these dimensions to travel here. Now, of course, I don't know. I don't have any proof of this. This is just my theory. But I believe that a lot of people say, well, maybe they're extraterrestrial from another planet, or maybe they're from another dimension, which is interdimensional beings or whatever. But I think it's kind of they're probably a hybrid of the two. I think that they are from our dimension. I think they are, so which means they're from another galaxy or another solar system within our galaxy. But I think that they're traveling here by using dimensions and just piecing that together from from the theory of the multiple dimensions. And also the fact that everybody, even all the skeptics, all the regular scientists, they say, aliens or any other intelligent species couldn't come here because the distances are just too far. Well, I feel like you're thinking within the box. You're not thinking outside the box if you say that. And it's funny because you're not even considering all scientific theory when you say that. You're not considering wormholes. You're not considering other dimensions. You're not considering any of that stuff. And so I think what these aliens, whether it's one species, and I think there's definitely more than one, I think that these species of aliens who figured out how to travel here are using these dimensions to travel here. And I think they somehow bend space and time, and they might even pop into the other dimension to get here and then pop back in over here to wherever they want to go. They just put in the coordinates and boom, they're there, right? And so I think they figured out a way to do that. So it's like they're not interdimensional, but they are using dimensions to travel here to jump that space and time that it takes to get here. And so yeah, I think it is connected in a way. And I think when they do that, my theory is when they do that, right, they're basically punching a hole in the dimension. It can cause paranormal activity as a side effect. So some people say, well, these UFO and these, ghosts, they must be connected because there's many, many places where the same thing happens. It's a hot spot for UFOs, and it's also a hot spot for paranormal activity. For example, Skinwalker Ranch, right, is one of those locations. But that's not the only location. There is other locations where there is a lot of all types of activity, cryptid, UFO, and ghosts. And what I think is happening is, I think when these paranormal or these aliens are popping in through a portal or from the other dimension, it's ripping open other portals and allowing other entities or other cryptids to come through easier. It's basically kind of thinning the veil so they're able to punch through easier, which makes it more of a hotspot for other types of activity as well.
Are you a firm believer then that we do have aliens walking on our planet right now, or at least visiting?
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I'm not convinced that we have beings that are 100% alien. I think there could be hybrids, definitely. I think that's highly plausible because we wouldn't be able to even tell if they're, alien. So, because they're going to look more human than alien, right? They're obviously not going to put them here on the Earth if they're so obvious that we would be able to tell. So that's possible. But as 100% alien, if they are here on Earth, I think they probably have underwater bases. Actually, I think it's almost guaranteed at this point. And but I don't, as far as like, you're walking in the mall and you're walking past aliens, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I think it's unlikely. I think if anything is walking around us as aliens, it's probably these reports of, Men in Black, the ones that act strange and just seem kind of robotic or something like that, or maybe these black-eyed kids that some people report. It could be something like that. That to me speaks to me as an alien trying to disguise itself, but not doing a very good job at it.
Well, if they are here, do you think then that, never mind just aliens, but do you have a strong belief then that the governments and agencies of the world know that this is all tied together, that the phenomena is all one, that, what you're seeing in the sky or what you're seeing haunting us could be all of the same.
Yeah, I think the government knows more. The government knows more than just UFOs. I think they know a lot more. And I think they don't fully understand it, but I think they definitely know about all this phenomenon. I don't think that it's just the UFO thing that they are focused on. And the remote viewing is proof that they look into other areas of the paranormal, and it's not just UFO. It's all over the news nowadays. With UFO disclosure and all that stuff. But it would not surprise me in the least bit if UFO disclosure does happen, and I think it will. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not even this year, but I think it will happen. Very likely in our lifetimes. But when it does happen, I wouldn't be the least a bit surprised if they're like a couple years after that. Oh yeah, and we know Sasquatch is real, or Bigfoot, or we know that these other things are real, and these other dimensions, and things are coming over from other dimensions, and we don't really know how they're doing it or what they are or where they're from. We just know that they are happening. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm pretty much under the same roof. Now, you haven't seen any cryptids yet, but you are in an area where there's alleged things like puckwudgies and gnomes running around, and never mind the great white sharks in the ocean, which that's for another story another day. But have there been areas of sightings of Sasquatch in your area or other cryptid creatures?
Yeah, actually I live 15 minutes from the famous Sykesville Monster that Lon Strickler himself saw back in the 80s. I believe it was 83 or something like that when he saw it.
Or something like that, yeah.
And I know the exact river where he saw it, the exact spot, and it's wild to me to think that he saw that back then, because it's kind of a small town. But it's, it was probably back then still a town of 15,000 people. This was not like in the middle of nowhere. There was a sighting, reported a year or two ago, that was in that same area, in that Sykesville area, where somebody reported seeing one around that lake called Liberty Lake, not long ago. And, it's sometimes hard to believe that something like that, because the area is really, really built up over the years since, Lon Strickler saw that back in 83 or 84. And so it's an even bigger population in the area now, like maybe 30,000 people in the area. And so it's certainly not, in the middle of nowhere. And it really shows you that there's something more than going on than just probably flesh and blood if these things are still being sighted in more populated areas. And so, yeah, there is. It's not so popular here, but if you just go a little further out west, they're everywhere. Just a 30-minute drive west of here. It's very forested. It's very wilderness. And there's just not much people out there, honestly. And it's hard to know what's going on out there, but I know Lon Strickler's reporting stuff all over the place in this area, and yeah, there's a lot of activity for sure.
What makes it special? Do you think it's the age of the area? Do you think it's the history, the secretiveness of the alphabet agencies?
Oh man, that's a tough one. It's a good question, because speaking of cryptids and alphabet agencies, there was actually a sighting, extremely, extremely credible Bigfoot sighting down here in closer to the area where I used to grow up, which is even a more populated area, which it was only 2 or 3 miles from the NSA headquarters. And this was back in, I think, 2001, 2002, sometime around then. If you want to know the exact year, it was the year that they were building what's called Arundel Mills Mall, and it's the biggest mall in the state of Maryland. And it's about a mile around, and it's when they were clearing out this wooded site, this forest for the site, and it was they were clearing out over 500 acres of forest to make way for the mall and the parking lot. This huge facility, right? So they're tearing down a ton of forest, and there was an encounter there back in the early 2000s when there was construction crew workers that would come back to the construction site, and they noticed that there was stuff missing, tools missing, or 2x4s missing, or whatever supplies that they had was clearly missing. And they thought somebody was stealing stuff. Sometimes some of those tools are kind of valuable, and so two of them had camped out there overnight at the construction site of that mall. And they, to their surprise, this thing, whatever it was, came. Whatever was taking their stuff came, and they described it as like this super tall, 8-foot being covered in fur, and it just ran. Once it saw them, it ran back in the woods. And the crazy thing is, there is an actual police report on this. They reported it to the police, and I'm happy to share that to anyone. If anyone wants see that police report, there was actually a paranormal group that did big deep dive into that incident, and I can send you the link for it. You can just message me on Twitter and at Android Paranorm without the AL at the end. And there's a police report, and the police himself in the police report reported seeing the being on the edge of the woods, just sitting there looking at him. And it's just mind blowing to me that even police, who are sworn, citizens under oath, reporting these things, but the funny thing is he calls it a bear in the report, even though he says it's standing upright. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm sure he was trying to avoid a psychiatric evaluation.
Right. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah.
How can you not? Yes, of course it was a bear. Of course. What else could it be?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For you, looking forward in your own investigations, in your own theories, what do you want to try and solve? What is the game plan for you?
That's a great question. I think the game plan for me is really just answers. I'm not really targeting any specific answers. I think the biggest thing in general that I'm trying to get at is just the source of this. Even if it's just a small answer, every time we get a small answer, it's going to lead us one step closer to finding out, what's going on, where it comes from. And so even if it's just as small as, an orb appears every time, an EMF meter goes off, or an orb appears, or anytime an orb appears, the temperature drops, even just small pieces of information like that, it's a piece of the puzzle, essentially trying to piece together that puzzle. And so really, I'm just trying to get some of those puzzle pieces to piece together to try and get us some of those answers, because if we can just work together, basically, if we each get a couple of those puzzle pieces, we can kind of come together as a community and help piece together more of that and see that full picture, because that's how we're going to get more answers is by working together to share the puzzle pieces that we have found.
And I think that's the way to go. Now, do you think technology is going to play an important role in this, or do you believe that the spiritual side of everything will catch up with the technology, and it'll need both in order to find the true solutions of what's going on?
I think it's a mix of both, honestly. Personally, it really bugs me, honestly, when I see people using these spirit box apps on their phone, and they could be legitimate, but there's no way to know for sure. And I'm going to explain the reason why. And the reason why is because you don't know who developed that app, who coded that app. They could have coded that app to just give you random answers for all you know. And so unless you are the person who coded that app yourself, you don't know. And so it's important to get yourself real devices. Don't use an app on a phone. EMF is a real thing. And so I think that technology is going to play into it. So EMF detectors, video recorders, cameras, temperature sensors, LiDAR, they're using, all types of stuff now, trying to get creative with sonar and um, heat cameras and all that, FLIR, so I think technology is a big important part of it for sure. But I think spiritualism and being spiritual in a way is also an important part of it, because there's clearly psychics. There's people who know things that they shouldn't know. There's people who are able to just feel things that they shouldn't be able to feel. While I'm not a psychic, I do see myself as an empath, and being able to feel energies and feel other people's emotions and know when something is not right. Kind of like when I went into that house, I could feel something was not right. There was an unsettling energy in that house before, I even heard that noise in the basement of like clothes rustling around the corner. So there is a piece to the puzzle that it's important to pursue the spiritual side of it as well. People who are more in tune to the spiritual side, I think, are going to be important tools. And I think even if you're not, a medium or a psychic yourself, it's still important to feel things out and to follow your intuition and your gut and how you feel about something. If something is, inside you telling you something is wrong, or something is there, or there's a presence there, whether it's good or bad presence, follow that, intuition, because it could lead you to more answers or just more experiences, even if it doesn't give you answers.
3 minutes ago with Matthew Hale from Android Paranormal tonight. And Matthew, it's been a great show so far. For you, what is your advice to people looking into this, to get into this field, to be a part of something really cool?
Just get out there and just get started. Don't be afraid to, just dip your toe in. It doesn't matter if it's going out to go to a place that you think might be haunted, or if you're just researching by reading books and by interviewing other people, going to conventions and talking with other people and making connections. There is so many different ways that you can really just be involved in the community, even if it's just online connecting with other people. We live in this day and age where we have the internet. When I was younger, internet was kind of a thing, but not many people had the internet. And so we got to use the internet to its full advantage and to connect with other people. And so it's important just to get out there and get involved, even if it's just by a small bit of just reading some books and connecting with other people. It's very, very important to just, do your part and contribute.
Quickly here, what has been your biggest help? Has it been a book? Has it been a television series? Has it been researching online? What has been your biggest benefit?
That's a great question. And I'm probably going to give an answer that probably a lot of people wouldn't even think of. And it's probably, it's probably a tie between two things. Other people's experiences is a big thing, because it really gives you insight into all the different possibilities of things and all the different things you can encounter and all the different types of ways things can happen. And it really gets your mind working and thinking. So that's helped me a lot too. But another thing that's helped me a lot is podcasts. And I used to be one of those people, probably as recently as, 5 years ago, I was like, why would I listen to a podcast? I can just watch TV if I want to listen to something. And there is a huge value in podcasts like yours, because there's so much you can listen to, and so much content, and so much knowledgeable and experienced people that you can listen to, and you don't have to be sitting in front of a TV to watch it or listen to it. You can just be going about your normal day listening to this, and and there's so much you can learn from. I've learned so much from just listening to other people who've researched this field or just shared their experiences on podcasts just like yours.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that compliment. And Matthew Hale from Android Paranormal, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Very much appreciate you taking the time for us, my man.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Matthew Hale, everybody. Coming up next in hour number 3, it's jam-packed. We have Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Then Robin Haynes with the Crypted Report, followed up by the Dave 101. What do I really hate about all this? And the strange news of the week. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Right on, buddy.
All right. Good wrap up for you.
Yeah, no, that was great. Great show. Thank you for being here, my man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me. I look forward to seeing the rest of the show.
All right, buddy. Go join your friends in the chat room.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too. It's Matthew, everybody. Nina Williams, how are you? Okay, hold on a second here. Terrible Times, who did you say I hadn't had on in a long time? I'm curious about that. And who else? Steve Istall. I would love to bring Steve back on. He was actually seen in my town recently, a couple weeks ago. He swears too much. Way too much. Oh, the Hellier folks. Yeah, I doubt we'll ever bring them back on. I really like them. They hung out with certain people. I'm going to keep this an edited version because I don't want to get fired up here. But they hang out with certain people who were spreading horrible, vicious rumors about me, and all of a sudden they stopped following me, stopped contacting me, and I really don't want to get into the who, what, where, when, why, how. I realize that's juicy. I opened the door to a little bit of drama there, but yeah, they hang out with certain people that I really don't. I used to highly respect, and now have not a lot of respect for, and so that's the reason why. Yeah, thank you. Steve Hudgens, I would bring on. Got a lot of questions for him. Yeah, so sometimes the rumor mill is juicier than the truth, and they were believing some very ugly rumors, ugly rumors, and I really don't want to open up that door again because the person who started it was not very kind to SOR. Thank you, Dogface Simon, Jen in the UK, A. Brock, T-Bone, Lori, Neil, and Debster for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. Very much appreciate the love and support. Hi, Robin Robin Haynes. I should just check my underwear so that way I know it's Robin Haynes. Oh, KNHBSM. I love Steve Istall. You have no idea how much I love Steve Istall. But when every second word is S or F or a-hole or anything like that, then yeah. Hey, Clam, if you're listening, read your message from me. Hey, Kira, I'm on water again tonight. Water, Kira. Water. Woohoo! Yes, I love my Kira. She's amazing. See, this is why everybody has to come to the Reno party, because you get to meet Kira and her amazing husband, Mark, who is like the brother I never had. And they are just two of the most beautiful people, man. Yeah, and Mark always looks good. He always has a nice dress shirt on. Always. Always.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Hard to believe we're already in the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Zystarch. Zystarch is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join the Space Travelers Club right now on Patreon. It is that time of the night where we kick off hour number 3 with Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Several creepy legends associated with the Appalachian Trail originate from the Cherokee people. One of these legends is about Spearfinger, which has been used to frighten children for generations. Spearfinger is described as a witch-like hag who can disguise herself as a friendly old grandmother or even a family member. Spearfinger lurks around the Smoky Mountain's highest peaks as she focuses on children who have wandered away from their homes and parents. These children are usually afraid, which Spearfinger takes advantage of as she tells them she'll help, but her antic is to sing them to sleep slowly. She then uses her finger, made of obsidian, to gouge out their liver and eat it before them. And now we have a story of a young girl who spotted a ghost while camping on the Appalachian Trail. While hiking with her parents on the Appalachian Trail, a young girl experienced her first encounter with the paranormal. The trio made camp for the night, and as her parents slept, she became frightened by something that kept her from being able to rest. The following day, after the eerie night passed, the girl took a brief walk with her mother before they continued their hike. While walking around and enjoying each other's company, her mother suddenly stopped and stared blankly into the distance. The young girl followed her mother's gaze and saw a hazy apparition against a tree a few yards from where they were standing. The man appeared calm but sad, and then he faded away, leaving the tense mother and child bewildered and fearful. And now, the legend of the Scorched Man. While hiking along the Appalachian Trail, it's not uncommon to experience inner fears and imagine being followed or pursued by unseen humans, animals, or forces. In 2011, a confident man decided to take a week off from work and hike the trail alone. At first, the hiker's journey went well until a terrifying incident occurred that left a lasting impression. On his first day, as he made his way down the trail, night fell, prompting him to set up camp. While alone in the dark, the man heard strange noises approaching his tent. Although slightly alarmed, he wasn't bothered enough to investigate the source of the sounds. The following day, he continued hiking and set up his camp before nightfall. While sitting around his fire later that evening, he was left shocked when he saw a man with badly burned hands, a burned body, and a smoking face standing near his firewood. This experience shocked and left him numb as the burned figure gazed at him before walking away. The terrified man decided to pack up his belongings and leave the area immediately, only to come across a recently burned down house with a sheriff outside. The sheriff told the man that the entire family burned alive in the house 4 days prior. Was the apparition that the man witnessed among those that had perished in the fire?
And thank you to Steve Stockton for coming on in for another great night of spooky stories here on Spaced Out Radio. If you want more, all you got to do is head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing and check them out for yourself. Well, let's head into the forest now. As filling in for Super Duke on the Crypted Report, here's Robin Haynes. Super Duke, the Crypted Report with Super Duke. All right, Robin Haynes, always a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Hey, sweetheart. How are you? I gotta get my own song. I want my own song.
I will make you your own song. How about that?
Sounds great. How are you doing?
I you know what? I'm doing great. I had a interesting night in the forest last week because
Wonderful.
and this is one of the things I wanted to get into with you because I know this is the abbreviated version of the cryptid, and that is time.
Mm-hmm.
Our area seems to heat up between 8 o'clock and 10:30. And
Okay.
before that, everything is dead. And after that, everything is quiet. What is with this? Because I hear of you and other people talk that, this area goes 24 hours a day and, 7 days a week, and they charge extra for entry fee on Sundays. You know what I'm saying? I hear all this
Well,
stuff,
I
Rob.
think it really depends on that clan and the area. Like when I was in Michigan, they were there every night. They would come in and they would eat because I'd have stuff out for them. About 5:30 or 6, they would disappear. They'd show back up at exactly 2 o'clock in the morning, and they'd knock on my windows and knock on the windows. And if I wouldn't respond, they would literally go to my kids' windows, and they'd knock on the windows and ping on the house by the kids' room. And then the kids would come and wake me up and tell me to go outside with them. And I would go outside and I'd sit in the woods with the Sasquatch, and they would walk around and they'd chatter, and then I'd hear them in their language and then in ours. But then you have other areas like where I'm at now, it's like a free for all. We had them in Michigan at the another place I lived at. They walked around uncloaked freely 24 hours a day. There was no set time. I just think it depends on the individuals and the area and, when they're coming in, they seem to get into a pattern. I've noticed. The only time I haven't seen them super, super active is like 6:30 in the morning till like maybe 10 or 11. And then after that, anywhere I've been, they come and go as they want. But I think they get set up in different locations and they get into their own routine and predictability of what they're going to do and when. I mean, they have comfort in the predictability.
Right. Okay. So our glow stick experiment failed.
Aw, mine
Okay.
loved the glow sticks.
Well, here's the thing. When we left, it hadn't moved. I left it there. I haven't been back yet. I don't know if it's moved yet or not. But the other thing too, I think, which was a little confusing for them, is we had 2 new people with us.
Yeah.
And I think like
That's going to throw them off.
but here's the thing. We heard around us sticks cracking. Okay, like they were being stepped. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you had 3 of them around you.
so if we look at that, there was nothing over by the glow stick, and I put the glow stick pretty much where we saw the guy last year. Okay, we did see a bunch of orbs around. We did see Starlink 2, which seems to be a tradition out there right now. And noise-wise, there was no huffing, puffing. There was no yelling or roaring or anything like that. There was no talking. And the problem with my area is when the sticks start snapping, okay, like somebody walks over a branch or something
Yeah.
of a fallen tree and it makes that cracking sound. I don't know if it's a moose. I don't know if it's a bear. I don't know if it's them. I can't tell the difference.
Well, you had 3 of them that were out there with you. But the thing of it is, like you said, you had 2 new people. So as far as normal activity when you're there, that's going to change and be altered a little bit while they're getting used to them, getting familiar with the energy that they radiate, and just making sure that it's a safe bet. So they could have gone more quiet than that. I know you had 3. You had 2 adult males and you had 1 child that was a little boy, but he would have been like the age of one of our anywhere from 10 to 12-year-old. So he was a little bit older. He wasn't a baby. And
Right.
but they will, I mean, you've now changed your normal setting and you brought in 2 new people. So now they've got to get adjusted to those people as well. Not that they can't or won't, but it's just going to take them a bit.
Right. Right. And I could understand that and appreciate that, So I mean, it's just something that I'm just trying to, put the pieces of the mystery together. But, like I said, I mean, the one thing that I have noticed over time is this activity that there's no point in being there after 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. We've never been out there past 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And it just, it just seems to die off,
Yeah.
almost like, yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
So I'm just wondering if that pattern of time is our only open window, because we've been there in the daytime, and in the daytime, you cannot feel them. You cannot feel them around. The only time we feel them around is, like I said, between that 8 o'clock and 10:30 time.
Well, a lot of times they get where they know that's a time you're going to be there and they'll actually adjust their schedule for that same time. And I mean, to me, it sounds like that's when they expect you. So that's when they're going to show up. You know what I mean? So that's like your window that they expect you to be there for your contact. Like in my case, they knew that at 2 a.m. when they came pounding on my window, I was going to go out in the middle of the woods, sit on the log and wait for them to show up. And so it became a normal thing at 2 a.m. I may see them walk around the yard earlier. They came in at 5:30, 6 o'clock to eat, but then they would disappear again. But yet at 2 a.m., they knew that was the time I would walk out and see them, because I'm up late at night anyway. And they just expected it. And they tend to adjust on what they think is going to be our patterns as well. So that's when they now have got it in their head that when you're coming. And so that's going to be your time slot. If they want interaction, they're going to know to come at those times. The more predictable you are with them, the better you do. They don't want us to ever feel confident that they're predictable, but they depend on us to be, because then they know what to expect. And for them, that's huge. They want to know what to expect. They want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. It gives them a sense of security.
I can understand that, and I can appreciate that. Okay, I'm just very curious, whether or not, there's more to it. Maybe I'm overthinking the idea that it's a little bit, of a game for them.
Well, I think it is. I mean, they've got you penciled in on that time slot, and that's when you're allowed. It's like when I used to go and take apples and stuff out, and I don't recommend that everybody feed them the amount that I did. I didn't have anybody to go to find out it wasn't a great idea. So that's why I did it. But they knew it took them no amount of time to figure out that I was predictable. At this time, I would be there. And they depended on that. And they would be waiting for that because that was my time slot with them. One night, and I've talked about this before, my kids had a church event. And I took them to church thinking, well, when I get back, it'll be time to put food out for them. I'll do it then. I got hung up at the church event because somebody had canceled and they needed me to help. I didn't come back home at 5:30. I was there till 10:30. I got back home and they had taken the buckets that I had screws in the trees and I had snaps on it. They took all the buckets off the snaps and all the buckets were on my front porch put upside down. And I had a cage that I put snaps on the door to keep all the possums and the raccoons out of it. And I would put food in it for them and put snaps all the way around it so that nothing could get in but them, and they would unsnap it. I came home that night, all the snaps were off of it and sitting on the front porch. I mean, they were like, okay, dingbat, you forgot something at 5:30. Where's the chow? And they were waiting. They were all out in the tree lines waiting. And I pulled in, and I actually pulled up close to the house because I didn't know how they would react. And I told my kids to go ahead and go in. They went in, and I walked out in the yard, and I'm like, I'm getting it. Everybody stay calm. I didn't have any problems. They were well behaved, but they were hooting and hollering and making noises at me. And I'm like, I'm coming. Give me a minute. Got the food and took it out to them, and they waited till I was safely back up on the porch, and then they all walked in to get it. But they like the predictability. They know what to expect, and it becomes a game to them. That's their time slot. That's when they're going to be there for you. Doesn't mean they won't come at any other times. It means that's the predictable spot where they know they're going to have that interaction. It's like you guys go out there to look at them and they're there to look at you.
Is it a safety thing too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The more predictable you can be for them, the safer they feel. They don't want to feel like there's surprises for them or it's a trap or there's anything that changes is enough to overstress them. It's like when we were talking about the toys that time and you had a bunch of them out, I said, take some of those away. It overstimulates them. It scares them because there's too much for them to figure out at one time. Go back down to like 2, 3, maybe 4 pieces and that's it. And it does work. Everything about them, their whole culture is based on predictability and safety and energy. And if they can make sure that it's safe, they're going to do it by the predictability of the situation they put themselves in and the people that are around them. And they will adjust to having the 2 new people in the group. It's just going to take them a little bit. Just like if you got a new neighbor, you're not going to know how friendly they are out the back, off, the top of it. You're going to want to get to know them and see if you vibe with them and get along with them before you get too social with them. Same thing with them.
Makes a lot of sense, Robin. I mean, the logic behind what you're saying is just so real. I mean, I tend to think every time we have one of these conversations that I am just very much overthinking all of this.
Well, that's not wrong and it's not abnormal because you're looking at their culture is different than ours. And I think that people in our culture strive to try to figure out theirs. And if you're not familiar with it, it's going to cause you to overthink because you don't understand what's going on in their mind on their side. So I think that's very common and very normal. I think I do it every now and then. And it's like, okay, take a step back. Not everything is as complicated as I'm making it out to be. And then you just like compartmentalize it and break it down, and then it makes more sense. But in their world, their culture and the way they live their lives is completely different than ours.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that, because in my area, I don't use food. They don't seem to be interested in our gifting site. Nothing ever seems to move there anymore. Okay, and I'm okay with that. I leave it out there. It doesn't hurt anybody. Okay, but for anybody wanting to gain that trust regarding maybe Sasquatch in their area or their backyard, what should they do?
Well, I think the gifting is really good, but I agree with not the food products. Once in a while, if you want to put a few apples out there or something like that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't make that a predictable thing where they depend on it at a certain time every day. You're better off doing, the white rocks, the feathers, beads. Be careful when you're placing crystals, because they use crystals for part of the different paranormal things that they do, and you want to make sure you're not giving them something that they can, cause a problem with. Kids' toys, as long as there's something that can't get caught or lodged in the throat. Don't put a lot. And you don't want a lot of things that are going to make a ton of noise, because when they go to movement, it makes the noise that scares them. They like the musical things, but again, make sure it's a softer version of music that's not going to frighten them. And it may still frighten them at first while they get used to it. But definitely, feel free to gift. But I do have to say that in more times than not, I was very fortunate. My group, when I didn't gift anymore, I had no problems whatsoever. But I can tell you multiple people that when they stopped gifting, there were issues. And I mean that with the food gifts, not so much anything else. So,
I
if you
can
want to
see
put
that.
apples out now and then, or you want to put pears out now and then, as long as it's not on a regular basis that they're looking for it at a certain time and it's, every day or whatever, then you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in our area, we just couldn't. There's too much animal activity, and
Hmm.
we don't need to be drawing the animals in
Right.
away and pushing the cryptids away. So with 2.5 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you on this abbreviated cryptid report, if someone is having activity in their yard, in their
Hmm.
backyard, maybe in a farmland or in a rural area, whatever it may be, okay, what's the easiest way for somebody to start slowly making contact?
I would go out there, and I wouldn't, like, let's say you have a wooded area and you see the structures and stuff. Don't go pushing into their structures. Right on the outside of that, possibly leave a gift, whether it be the white rocks or the feathers or the beads. You could put a couple of apples in friendship. Talk to them either verbally or in your mind, because even if you don't get mind speak, they can still hear it and say, you're welcome to be here in peace. We can share the land, but only if you're here with a pure heart and in peace, because it's so important that they know the mindset that you would tolerate in your area. And whether or not they will, reciprocate that kindly, that's up to that individual. But you want to put that in place almost like a boundary. But, obviously you could put a few apples back there. You can do that as long as it's not every day and at the same time where they're dependent on it. But if not, put white rocks, feathers, those all are friendship things, and leave them back there. Be careful when you're going up to these structures. You don't alter the structures in any way, shape, or form. If they're not used to you, be where you can see the structures, but possibly leave the gifts a little bit away from them so they don't feel like you're invading that space until they're more used to you.
Right.
Talk to
Right.
them. Walk around out there and just talk to them, because they're going to hear you. Make your presence known. I come in peace. I have a pure heart. I have no wish to harm you or your families. Just like you would a neighbor.
Makes a lot of sense. Robin, it is that time of the night once again where we have to say goodnight to you. It always seems too short with you.
I know,
Always
but we
so.
have fun. I love you guys.
I know. And I look forward to speaking with you next Thursday
You got
as
it. I'll be
well.
here.
And it's always a lot of fun. Robin, how can people get a hold of you?
You can email me at RLYNNE and then a period, FOREST PEOPLE@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes.
Love it. Robin, always a pleasure to have you here.
Everybody take care.
All right. Not McCray anymore. Robin Haynes.
There you go.
Is the lovely and talented one who communicates with Sasquatch and other cryptid beings. Coming up next, it's the Dave 101. It's that time of the year where I say, yeah, this is what I hate about this entire field. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. JSCO, how you doing? Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. And who else do we have here? Mike Jones, how you doing? Dave 101 next. Dave 101. Dave 101. That's me. We've had a good night here so far. We really have. Hi, Jessica S. That's right, Super Duke. Right there. Get off my lawn. Dang, burn it. Get off my lawn. No, my mowing days are done till 2024. Now I have to, one of these weekends before the snow comes, go and readjust my shed so I can get the snow blower out and then worry about the lawnmower next year. It happens. Dave, what did you find out about the history and geology of your zone? Like my Sasquatch zone or just my area in general? My Sasquatch zone, not much. It's a marshy area. I know if you go back like a million years, it was like big time lava and volcanoes around here. Oh, I didn't think that at all, Shell. Didn't think that at all. Don't worry about it. We'll hug later. All right, big thank you to Simon, Jen, Debster, Neil, Lori, T-Bone, and A. Brock for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and let's make this thing go here in 5 seconds. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Hey, you can join our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go. It is that time of the night where I yell at all the kids to get off my lawn. It's the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Open the door, it's Dave. Dave, D-A-V-E. Dave's not here. He's the killer. Yeah, he's the killer. He's a mess.
I had another completely different topic that I was going to speak about tonight. But then there was a comment in our chat room about the word squatch. Yes, it's the trend of the last 10 years, thanks to that horrid Not Finding Bigfoot show on television, where everything from raccoons to chipmunks to rabbits to grouse to the eagles in the sky, everything is a squatch. I hate that word. Can't stand it. Drives me insane when I hear it. People going squatching. Yep, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. There are certain things that should never be said or done. Now, a lot of people have come up to me over the years, and even my audience members come up and say, hey Dave, what's the issue here? What's your boggle? Well, when I first heard it on television, and I'm going to tell you this, I have only ever seen a grand total of 15 minutes of Not Finding Bigfoot on TV. And that 15 minutes I thought was so embarrassing to the field that I never turned it back on. Just didn't like it. Nothing against the people on there. Okay. But it was just to the point of ridiculousness that I didn't enjoy it. But that's me personally. But then this squatch crap that started. And the word just grated on me. Drove me crazy. And I promise there's a point to this. Okay? I do promise, and I will get to that. So in 2015, I had the pleasure of my one and only time in meeting the late, great Dr. John Bindernagel. I was at a conference that some friends were putting on. And John happened to be there speaking about Sasquatch. Now, for those of you who know the history of John Bindernagel, good for you. But for those who don't, he was an admirable man, a brilliant man, an anthropologist, an educated scientist who had never seen a Sasquatch in his life. He had found footprints. He had found what he believed to be scat and hair samples. And he wanted to hear about my Sasquatch story because in 2013, in my friend's backyard in the forest, we were within 100 feet of two of them. And he had heard this, and he was actually trying to track me down in the hotel while I was trying to track him down as well. And then we came face to face in the hallway. I introduced myself, and he said, "You're the guy who saw two in Mission." He goes, "Let's get out of here. Let's go." And I said, "Well, my friends no longer have the property. I can't go back there." And he's like, "Well, do you think we could knock on the door and let the other people know?" And I wanted to see some of the speakers and all this and kind of played dumb on it. So during our conversation, I said to Mr. Bendernagel, I said, "What do you think of the word squatch?" And he was a very stoic man, a man of very deep thinking. And he took a deep breath and he sighed in front of me and then said, 70 years of research all gone down the toilet because of one word. Squatch. And what he meant by that was that for decades, he had been trying to get the scientific community to take Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, research to the next level. He wanted scientists to start coming out with him to show them that there is this creature that lurks in the forests of North America and around the world. He wanted to show them the hot spots where the activity happened, the reports he had taken. But because of Squatch, none of them wanted to hear it. So I don't use the word on this show, and I don't encourage the usage of that word on this show or in my chat rooms or wherever I am online, out of respect for Dr. Badernagel and the way that faux scientists and faux researchers have blown up this idiotic word like they know what they're doing. And you know, it's funny, Jessica Jones, our cryptid huntress around here, before she got involved with Spaced Out Radio, she was a squatcher. Everything was squatch this, squatch that. And I finally said, "Jessica, you know how I cannot take your research seriously is because you squatch." That's one thing I have learned is people who want to play the roles of these researchers, investigators, what they do is they start using the trendy words right off the bat. Okay, what's trending? Squatch is trending. Okay, so we're going to use that. I'm going squatching this weekend. Okay, to me, it makes you sound like a fool. And I have now interviewed enough people in this cryptid world to learn very easily that if you use the word squatch, I know your research is garbage. I know it's bogus. I know that you're just a weekend warrior who is going out into the field hoping to have an experience, a sighting, or maybe find a footprint. That's it. There's nothing to your research. There's nothing serious about it because those who are looking seriously into it don't go squatching. No, they don't squatch at all. Okay? What they are using is they are using terms like hominid. They are using terms like Gigantopithecus. They are using terms like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, wild man, wild hairy man, and many others. but they don't squatch. Great researchers out there don't have time to play the hillbilly game that Sasquatch research has become. Oh, and it's not just Sasquatch research that does it. The paranormal is famous for this too. Okay? The paranormal, excuse me, the paranormal has their own issues. For instance, team skeptics. You go onto a paranormal team's website, and there's always the one dude standing on the side with his arms crossed, looking sternly at the camera, and his title, Team Skeptic. What in the hell do you need a team skeptic for? You should be skeptic on your own to try and break down what is real and what is not. Okay? You should be on your own to learn that your own senses, your own ability are going to try and find rational explanations to what is going on. It's not the idiocy of having a team skeptic. Or the other thing, this is the other thing that picks my hide about the paranormal, is when you have these teams come on. This is why I don't do a lot of paranormal teams. I used to, but I found a pattern in them that I didn't appreciate. They all say, we are conducting scientific investigation of the paranormal phenomena. You know the best way to confuse a paranormal investigator? Ask them what they do with their evidence. Well, we collect it. Great. What do you do with it afterwards? Well, what do you mean? We collect our evidence, we go through it, and that's what we do. Okay, but what do you do with it afterwards? Well, what do you mean? Well, are you going to other groups and maybe siding with each other to see if you could correlate any of the evidence? Oh, no, we don't do that. Are you taking the evidence to show the person in their home or their place of business what you found? Some will say yes. But here's the thing, people. None of these paranormal groups are conducting anything scientific. The only thing scientific that they have are their phones that they're using for EVPs, their tape recorders that they are using for EVPs, their cameras, their fake apps that don't work, okay, along with their equipment. When they set up their equipment, they say they are conducting scientific investigation. Well, if we Google what is a scientific hypothesis, it says a hypothesis is an idea or proposition that can be tested by observation or experiments around the natural world. Okay? A scientific experiment has a number of things in it. It has a theory, it has a hypothesis, it has the experiment, it has the results, and then the conclusion. How many paranormal groups are actually doing that? Extremely few. Less than 2%. Probably less than 1%. So when I hear paranormal teams telling me that they are conducting scientific investigations, I know they're garbage. They're bogus. It's much like when you go to a carnival and you spend the $20 to get your palm read or your future through a crystal ball, and they're telling you everything that you would tell yourself if you were fake. Oh, the lottery seems to be picking up. You're a real family man. You're very hardworking. Your hands tell me that you're very, very intense with what you do. You're a perfectionist. Oh, yeah, we've heard it all. We've heard it all. Last time I went to one of them palm readers at a carnival was this summer. And the lady is handing me the BS. Oh, you're a very lucky man. You need to start playing your lottery numbers from all the birthdays of your children, your grandchildren, and your parents and your partner. And you're going to win very soon. I can feel it. So old Davy has not bought a ticket lately and checked all the numbers, and very rarely has one birthday number come up at all. No. So what did I do in retaliation? I asked her point blank, because I am kind of intuitive. I asked her point blank, I said, tell me about the ghost in your house that walks the hallway upstairs by your bathroom. I knew it was a man. I knew it was from about 1930, 1940. And I said, why does he keep sitting on the brown chair downstairs? She goes, well, that was my uncle's chair. He liked it. How am I going to know that? It's not guessing. The pictures just come in your head. Put her to shame. UAPs. You know my feeling on UAPs. Every piece of information, if you go back and look at the UAP, shows that it is a man-made object. We've heard generals talk about UAPs. We've heard politicians talk about UAPs. We've heard the public talk about UAPs. Lou Elizondo, Tom DeLong, and everybody in between's all UAP'd off. But in the end, what's a UFO? A UFO is something we don't know. UAP is what we know as man-made. It's already been proven. We just don't want to accept it. So if you're a squatcher, if you're a skeptic, if you are the scientific experimentation paranormal team or a UAP lover, time to wake up, because you're not reading the information properly. And we don't have enough time or enough room for that type of information. That is your Dave 101 this week. Thank you for tuning us in. Tell me what you think. If you're on YouTube and watching this, leave a comment below and let me know. Am I right? Am I wrong? Well, let's get to the news.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's news.
Oh, here's a beauty to start with. A woman has filed a lawsuit against Walt Disney World in Orlando, claiming she suffered an injurious wedgie following a painful ride at the theme park's Typhoon Lagoon. The complaint was filed September 27th in Orange County, Florida, by Emma and Edward McGinnis. They are seeking $50,000 in damages after the 33-year-old Emma allegedly suffered injuries by the couple's visit to the popular water park in October 2019 for her birthday. Oh, great. So you wait 3 years to try and cash in. Good for you. The suit details Emma's horrific trip down the Humunga Kawabunga attraction, which features 3 body tubes totaling 65 meters in length and comes to an end following a nearly 5-story plunge in the dark at nearly 65 kilometers an hour. Emma, who said in the suit that she was wearing a one-piece bathing suit, alleged that no one explained safety protocols, such as the necessity for riders to cross one leg over the other, and that women would be at greater risk for injuries due to their anatomy and swimwear. When a rider of the slide reached the bottom of the ride and traveled into the pool water designed to stop further travel, the force of the water can push loose garments into a person's anatomy, an event known as a wedgie. So basically, yep, she got her shoved right up there. And she didn't like it. Nope. Because of a woman's anatomy, the risk of a painful wedgie is more common and more serious than it is for a man. She suffered what she described as an injurious wedgie, which could have been avoided if Disney had instructed her on proper clothing to wear while on the Humunga Cowabunga ride. 3 years. Did it take her 3 years to get the wedgie out? This is what I want to know. Okay? Because if it took 3 years to finally dig that sucker out, okay, then I can understand why they're filing now. Otherwise, cash grab that they'll probably win. A man who married a 71-year-old woman when he was 18 took to social media to honor his baby doll on her 80th birthday. Gary Hardwick, soon to be 26, and his wife of 8 years, Almeda, are still going strong after meeting at her son's funeral in 2015. Happy birthday to the most amazing wife in the world, Gary posted on Instagram with an accompanying photo of Almeda. Today is not only your day, but most importantly, today is about celebrating the birth of such a wonderful and true woman with such a heart of gold. Ah, beautiful. Hey, they're in love. I don't mind the age gap. I'm the luckiest husband for every day that I get to wake up beside you. You make me the happiest man each and every day, and I want to always make you the happiest woman. Gary continued, you deserve the world until my last breath. I'm sure hers will come first. And I'll always work hard to give you that. All of my happiness, moments, and more are moments I share with you. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't it? The couple married 3 weeks after meeting at the funeral, then again at a children's birthday party. Despite the age difference, both Gary and Almeda insist that their relationship is the real deal. And here's the sickening part. You can all check it on out because they have an OnlyFans page where they have fully explicit content. If that doesn't make you shrug and shiver and crunch your teeth together, I don't know what will. Ugh. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. And if you're Canadian, drive safe this Thanksgiving weekend. Good night. There we go. There we go. Yoo-hoo. Hey, Random Gee. What's happening? Oh, where are we going here? We're going here. That's right. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Red. Random Gee. Loves his UAP. How do you type in the dark when your keyboard is lit up? You're not on your computer. Your keyboard is lit up. It's impossible that it's dark. When do you use a desktop? Oh, yeah, you just set up a new desktop. That's right. So you're probably testing out your new computer. In the dark, you dork. You're a dork. There's a term that isn't used enough anymore. Random Guy's the only guy I know who has like 17 phones just so he could critique them. $835 for an electric bill? Holy cow. I think the biggest one I've ever had is like 600. That's through the Canadian winter. Real proud day for me today. My dad went to my mom's gravesite in the cemetery, and my mom's beautiful headstone had been put down. Took a few months to get there, and for them to make it and everything, but my mom's headstone finally was put on her gravesite, and I'm pretty happy about that. It's beautiful. It really is. I know none of you will ever see it, but I'm just telling you, it's beautiful. My mom would love it. Hey, my brother Eugene, how are you? our Keith Andrews tomorrow night for the ET Connection. Oh, I got lots of commercials to fix. I'm in the process of redoing all the audio and video, and redoing scripts, redoing everything. Will I adopt you? How much do you make? Can you pay rent? My aunt kind of did the same thing with my uncle. Thank you, JSCO. All right, everybody. It is that time of the night where I have to say goodnight to all of you. Our Keith Andrews tomorrow night on the show as we get to some serious woo with all of you and Keith, because we love that stuff around here. Big thank you to Debster, Neil, Jenster, Simon, Lori, T-Bone, and A-Brock for the super chats. Really appreciate the love and support to all our new subscribers that we are picking up. And don't forget to follow us on social media. I will talk to you all tomorrow night, my friends. We'll do it again. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.